Hey everyone, this is Joe Burcaw and you are watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm Jon Liebman, founder and first baseman. You know, a lot of people think they're too old or it's too late for them to learn how to play bass. So I created ForBassPlayersOnly.com for adults who want to play bass because I believe you're never too old and it's never too late to experience the joy and the pleasure of making music. ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Let's play bass. My guest this week is an old friend, Joe Burcaw, widely known as Bearclaw. Joe is a bass player, duh. He's also a band leader and an educator from Connecticut originally. For nearly a decade, Joe performed with the Celtic rock band Black 47. He's also performed and or recorded with the Neville Brothers, Black Crowes, Train, The Roots, and he's collaborated with bassists Ron McClure, Nick Beggs, and Mark Egan. He's also worked closely under the mentorship of Duran Duran bassist John Taylor. Joe's got a brand new EP release coming out in, I think, December of 2023. Is that right?
December 8th.
December 8th. And I think that's Nathan East's birthday. I don't know how I know that, but it's called Four on the Floor. And this group, featuring Corey Glover of Living Color fame, is called Bearclaw and the Balance Brigade. I listened to it when I first got it, and I listened to it again this morning. It sounds great. This debut EP is described as an R&B dance-infused body of work. And it was inspired by Joe becoming a first-time dad during the pandemic and being stuck at home when the whole world shut down. Four on the Floor addresses through music issues including racism, domestic abuse, immigration freedom, and gay rights, all under the backdrop of world events like George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. So Joe is not only a great bass player and a musician, but he's an inspiring human being. Welcome, Joe. It's great to have you back on ForBassPlayersOnly.com.
Thanks, John. Always a pleasure. Love seeing you and love getting caught up on life. So this is an absolute treat for me. So
well, thank you. I enjoy it too. So let's get caught up. The EP sounds great. Really great production, and there's some great bass playing on there too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you know, with the advent of COVID, March of 2020, you know, I had a baby. I have a baby, a young daughter now, June, and she was born at the end of February. And 3 weeks later, the world shut down, as we all know. And here I am sitting in my house with my wife and this little being wondering, oh my goodness, what do we do? What is happening? I mean, there were so many unknowns at that point. And I'm an avid reader of the New York Times, and I get the weekend edition quite a bit. And I was just reading all these articles on the uptick of domestic abuse and how a lot of partners don't know how to get out of a specific situation and are stuck. On top of that, we had the George Floyd uprising and what was going on with the Black Lives Matter marches. And it just seemed like the world was crumbling. And I just thought to myself, you know, we're all sitting at home and all my musician buddies are hanging out. Let's call some folks up. And Corey is an old friend of mine. I am neighbors with Doug Wimbish. So Doug's an old mate. He lives up the street from me, and he and I have been doing some work. As a matter of fact, before COVID, we were working on a couple tracks, some real dancey, bass-focused stuff. He and I were just trading licks with a dance beat, and we got Corey involved with that. And then, you know, we kind of put that on the shelf on the wayside just because, you know, of the pandemic. So anyway, I met Corey through Doug, and Corey and I have had a really nice, great relationship. And I called him up, and I called a mutual friend of ours, see if they wanted to do some virtual trading of licks, if you will, and to write virtually. Everybody was down for it. And we would do these weekly sessions from home, and we would just throw ideas at each other, lyrical ideas. I had some musical things that I showed the guys, and it led up to us creating this EP. We didn't know what was going to happen, but it just kind of led its way into that becoming a 4-song EP. So it just proves too that you can do all of this at home. Uh, I'm used to back in the day where you jump into a studio with the musicians all vibing off each other together. But we all had our own little systems, our DAWs at home. I had my Logic, and Jamie, our mutual friend, had Pro Tools, and Corey had something at home. So we were just trading files back and forth. And I have to say, would I do it again as far as having a virtual release? I don't know. But for what it was, I'm very happy with the sound. And I think it sounds pretty good for just flying everything in from home as opposed to having an engineer help us with the end product.
I think the production is great, but I think that was happening anyway before COVID, but COVID kind of forced us to do it that way as opposed to getting together in the studio. Because when you have the eye contact and you have the personal interaction, there's something there that you can't really capture when you do it virtually. But on the other hand, if you have somebody who lives in Sweden or Germany or, Brazil, you want to get on a recording, it sure is a lot more convenient to do it electronically.
Yeah, it really is. It also proves too, to me as an educator, because I own a music school, that doing virtual lessons is viable. I didn't really think about it before that, but I have a couple students overseas as well, in Amsterdam and in the UK, and it's great. If you have a hardwire connection and you're not working off the Wi-Fi, it's great. I mean, the latency's minuscule, but you can get by, as far as teaching and get your point across to the students. So yeah, it's kind of it's the wave of the future, it looks to me.
Well, you just said something I haven't thought about in years. Wi-Fi to me is just a given, but your computer right now, is it plugged into the wall?
Yeah, it certainly is.
I don't even have one of those in my house. My house, a new house, it was built just a few years ago. It's funny, in my old house, I had a tube that had nothing into it. It went from the attic all the way down to the basement, just in case I want to wire something up and down. That was like 2003, and I don't.
The Stone Ages.
Yeah. Well, let me get back to the EP for a minute. I think it's great that you're calling attention to these important issues. So, what exactly do you hope to accomplish through this music?
I want to send a message that we're creating this music to deal with topical situations. And what I mean by that is there's so many people that are hurting and feel the need to have music in their life to heal whatever's going on in their personal life. And I think it's a good way just to send a message. And I just feel like we're messengers. We're sending a message through the music, and just hoping that through the internet and through word of mouth that it gets through to people that this is not just, we're not talking about the Beatles, I want to hold your hand, and Love Me Do. And I mean, these are really serious conversations that I feel like sometimes get thrown under the rug and people aren't always comfortable talking about. Racism. The first single, Zigzag, deals specifically with the conversation, having the conversation, not avoiding the conversation. Obfuscation. Things can be very unclear and ambiguous, and it's about, no, we're presenting a platform for you to come up, and I'm talking about mostly people in the United States, that the message is going out to people in the States to come with us and to have this conversation. It needs to be had because the Black population has been undergoing so much duress for years, decades, and something needs to give. It really does. So I feel also that there are other situations such as incarceration. We have another song in the can that we're going to probably work on later this year. There are so many people that are behind bars that should not be behind bars, and I think there's a lot of people that are hurting that should not be there, and have nowhere to go, nobody, no lawyers that are going to represent them. And I kind of want to bring light to that as well, that there's a lot of people that need to get out of these prisons. So Bearclaw and the Balance Brigade is my brainchild, and a way for me to focus on bringing change, however I can do that through the music that we write. Right now, Corey is the voice of the project. And I would like for him to remain the voice of the project because he's 100% in and very involved with it. But we'd like to rotate musicians and friends in and out to come in and out with us and to write with us. So it's kind of a revolving chair. There's not going to always be the same lineup. It'll probably be the core of Corey and myself with other friends of ours coming in and out. So
Well, great. There's something to be said about, yeah, let's make everybody aware of it. Well, we're all aware of racism, but what about something like domestic abuse? I think is one of the things that is on the list of issues. Uh, Maybe for some people, it's a comforting feeling to know that, oh, I'm not the only one. There are other people that are also suffering. So just to I don't want to say substantiate or certainly don't want to say legitimize, but just knowing that you're not the only one, and maybe there's a support group, or is there? I mean, I'm trying to think tangibly what can be done by people being aware of this. Is there a call to action, or are you just going for awareness so people will think on their own and then come forward so we can work together to try to confront some of these issues and solve some of these problems?
well, I'm hoping that the message gets out to a lot of people have more of a higher profile so that they can speak up, because it's about getting it to those people, really, when you think about it. I hate to say it. I mean, going to the layman is not the cure. It's getting to the top.
Oh yeah,
And
influences.
yeah, right, true. Yeah, influencers. And with that, yeah, I think it's about maybe, I don't know, going to Capitol Hill or just trying to get some sort of legislation involved. Like with domestic abuse, you were talking about how to protect women and children more that are under these situations. I never realized this, that the biggest uptick in abuse is Super Bowl Sunday. Yep, it's a fact that that a lot of these people who are watching the Super Bowl, it's male dominated, and a lot of guys have gotten upset because their team's not winning and taken out their aggressions on family members. I know I cringe at even just saying that, but it's a statistic that is true. And that's just, I can't even conceive of that ever happening, but that is when there is the most violence in the house domestically.
Well, you have a fundraiser concert coming up in
Yes.
the spring of 2024. So, what can be solved with money? When you raise money, how does that go toward solving these problems? Where does it go? What does it do?
Well, with our specific fundraiser in April of 24, we are raising money for my school for children, students who are underprivileged and cannot afford to take lessons with us, or and cannot afford rentals, instrument rentals. So the money that we generate is going to go strictly into that. Because that's another thing too. I get so upset with all these school districts who are shutting down the arts and putting more money into sports. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I don't agree with that. As we know as musicians, it's a language, and it sharpens your brain, especially the right side of the brain. Uh, so that's really where that is the aim and the goal, is to try to get these kids into our building in particular so that they can continue taking their lessons. Because I'll tell you, John, with COVID, so I witnessed so many families that were losing their parents, were losing their jobs, weren't able to continue taking lessons with us, families divorcing, splitting up. And yeah, that hits home as an empath. It really strikes a chord, no pun intended. And I think that that's a good way for us to try to put a smile on these kids' faces. And two, we want to be able to have some of the students get on stage with Corey and myself and the band and play with us. So we'll probably do Cult of Personality and Glamour Boys, and the kids will get on there and either sing, play guitar, play bass, whatever it is, and just get on board with us. You know, I got this idea from Doug because he has what's called Wimbash,
Yes.
and which is an amazing thing he's been doing for years with, in the Hartford area and around Connecticut. And he was doing things actually outside of the Connecticut area too when he was on tour. But his focus was what our focus is: bringing money in to raise money for kids who are underprivileged and can't afford lessons. So that's where I got the idea from, is what Doug was doing. And
one of the interviews I did with Doug, he told me a story about going. I think it was. I don't want to think it was an island in the Caribbean, or I don't know. He went somewhere where kids had no exposure to music, and he was trying to do the very thing you're talking about. And he said the kids would pick up a guitar and hold it on their lap, and the strings were closer to their body on that side of the guitar. That's how little they knew of. They knew nothing about it. So you're really starting from ground zero. You're passionate about a lot of issues. You should run for office. You know.
Oh, please! I am so not a political guy, but I would say, but piggybacking on, politics and social action, living color. I mean, I'm 51 now, and when I was in high school in the late 80s, early 90s, living color was breaking through. And here's this band out of New York City that's all black, breaking into the hard rock scene where everybody's white and getting high rotation, at least Cult of Personality case was getting a lot of rotation in the key time slots. And the video was everywhere. The single was played on the radio everywhere. And I was just, number one, the musicianship floored me. I'm like, all four of those members of the band, Corey, Vernon, Muzzy, Will, just, you look at how incredible they were as players and how they could facilitate on their instrument. It blew me away. But also the social commentary, middleman. Corey was talking about, it dealt with suicide and suicidal tendencies. Their Time's Up record, which came out in 1990, dealt with a lot of issues with racism and gender equality, and they were so ahead of their times. And unfortunately, you look back or you fast forward now, and not much has changed. So yeah, I feel like I have a duty to carry the torch and continue the message that Living Color was expressing. I absolutely love that band. I love those guys. They're very down to earth. They're human. They're fun to be around. I mean, I'm talking about Doug and Corey because I'm friends with both of them. But those guys, I strive to be like them. I really do. And can't tell you how much of an impact that band has made on me as a musician, as a person, and as a bass player.
It's pretty hard not to feel good when you're around Doug with this.
That this is true. Those vibes are infectious.
Hey, before I get too far off of it, yeah. I said the spring, you said April. When is this concert and where is it?
Yeah, it's going to be the second, I don't have the date. It's the second Saturday of April, and it's going to be in New Milford, Connecticut, which is where my music school is. Wow. It's going to probably be on, I can't remember if it's Saturday or Sunday, but it's going to be an afternoon, all ages type of event where kids can show up, and we're not going to be playing too late into the evening.
Okay, what's the
We're not going to be doing our Prince after show jams into 2 a.m.
What do you have a name for the concert, the event?
Not yet. I haven't come up with anything yet, but I do have to put my thinking cap on.
When January comes around, all of a sudden it's going to be, it's almost here, it's coming up.
I
So,
know, I know.
oh,
No.
you're welcome for
Yes,
that.
thank you very much, John. I will let you know once I come up with an idea for that. Absolutely.
You mentioned a couple times your music school, and you used to run a school of rock out in that area, didn't you?
I used to work at Boston School of Rock in Watertown, Massachusetts, which is right outside of Boston. So I taught there for 2 years and loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I just read that they were recently acquired,
By
School of Rock. I think it was some private equity group or something.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, for a little over $300 million.
Holy moly!
For
So
$300 million, you could have owned School of Rock, Joe.
gosh, man, what was I thinking? Yeah, I missed that train. No,
Well,
I'm happy. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk about bass and bass education because I know that's
Yes,
one of your many passions. For
yes.
bass players only, we have a lot in common. We play bass, we teach bass. For Bass Players Only is a bass instruction site. I've got people coming from all over the world every day to learn how to play bass right here For Bass Players Only. Most of them, as you might have gleaned from my intro, most of them are in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I had somebody sign up not too long ago, 83 years old. I've got a woman who's 80, mostly men, but there are some women. So
Good.
they're not trying to set the world on fire. They're not trying to become rock stars. They just want to get together, maybe play some classic rock riffs with their buddies, or some blues shuffles, or some more walking bass, whatever their music is. And a lot of times, you probably don't know yet, but when you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, things like arthritis and tendonitis and those kinds of things creep into your body. So I'm just setting a context for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens with people. So I just want you to know who I'm talking about. In that context, what advice do you have for somebody like that who wants to learn to play bass? What should they be thinking about? What should they know?
Number one, don't judge yourself. Don't go into a situation and think I can't. That type of verbiage, not going to fly. Anybody can pick up an instrument. I don't care how old you are. As you said, you have a gal in her 80s. I if I had somebody, and it's funny you say that because I do have a couple students who are in their early 60s, and they are so passionate, and they are some of the best students that I have. When I compare my little kids that I teach who are elementary aged compared to some retired folks, I think it's just because of having that life experience. They are so focused. So I would say don't second guess yourself. Come in and know that it's about having fun. Um, One thing with me, I will never, ever, ever tell a student that they're not doing something well. And I always try to find the key points and make it positive. So that, because at the end of the day, these people are relying on us. And if we're feeding them negative information, they're going to be walking out of that lesson thinking, wow, I'm not that great. I don't know if I want to come back. I have an example. I had a teenager who had special needs. She had autism, and she also could not ADHD. She couldn't focus very well. She was kind of, fidgety. And she had a teacher who said, you cannot continue with bass. You're not good enough, and you should drop it now. So the mother heard about me, called me up, and she was on the brink of tears, and I felt awful for her. Told me the story of what this guy said, and I said to her, let me meet your daughter, have her come in. So I had her come in, and this girl is playing Steely Dan licks
How
for
old was
bass. She was 16,
she? Mhm.
going on 17. This girl had the facility of, like a studio cat. I mean, I couldn't believe what was coming out of her, but she couldn't read notation. So because of what was going on with her impairment, she wasn't able to read, and this teacher was getting frustrated with her and told her she was useless. So I sat with her. We went over certain things that were her strong points, weak points, and we worked on her sight reading. And we got her to the point where she got an audition for Frost, I think school. I don't, if in Miami.
Miami?
Yes.
That's where I went.
Is that where you went?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that funny? And she got in.
You know, I looked at 7 schools before I chose that one. So obviously, I think very highly of it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know you went there. Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is this girl was shoved aside, treated like garbage, that she wasn't a good player because she had some issues going on cognitively. And we were able to get her to the point where she could read notation. She could understand a 12-bar blues and understand how that worked. 2-5-1s. I mean, she walked out knowing so much, and I was so proud of her. And I felt so happy that she was able to continue and to have a smile on her face and just feel like she accomplished something. So
I think you accomplished something. That's awesome.
Yeah. You're right. I guess as an educator, you have to.
Down at University of Miami now?
Her?
Yeah.
We lost touch. I don't know if she continued or not, but I'd love to reach out to her mom to see what happened. I hope so.
You were reminding me, I haven't thought about this in a while. Did you happen to see the movie Whiplash?
Oh, did I ever? I had post-traumatic stress syndrome from it. Gosh. Was that based on was that fictitious?
Somebody said it was based on Buddy Rich, but I don't know.
Okay.
I cannot qualify or corroborate that statement. But no, I think that's great. To see the positive and to enforcing, the good qualities that somebody has. Good for you. What about the future, Bearclaw? What else? I know you've got a lot of things, like I said, that you're passionate about. You've done a lot of things, and are you going to continue in the same circle, the same vein that you've been going on, or what's coming up?
I would like to. I would like to. Corey and I met up not too long ago, and we want to continue. Like I said, we do have another song that we're going to work on later in the year. And, I have this Jimi Hendrix tribute band that I play with. It's called Jimmy Forever.
Wow.
And my bandmates are from the Boston area, and we play out up in the New England area. And I love it. I love doing that. We dress the part, so I look like Noel Redding with a big fro. And Tony, my guitar player, looks just like Hendrix with the wig. And
does he play lefty?
He doesn't play lefty.
I interviewed a guy. What was his name? Artie, short for Artavan. He plays in a Beatles tribute band called the Fab Four. I don't know how they got that name, but he says, here we have it. It's legitimate. It's licensed and all that. But he is right-handed, and he taught himself to play left-handed bass. He still plays guitar righty, but he plays left-handed. I can't believe I forgot his last name. It was just a few months ago I interviewed him, but really. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even fathom that. I've tried and I have no facility. Absolutely. I can't even imagine just being on the fretboard that way, with the right hand as opposed to the left hand.
Not the Jimmy Haslip way, though. He did reverse the strings, but
still, I mean, that's a feat on itself.
It sure is.
So so the Jimi Hendrix thing, I've been doing that for the last couple of years and really enjoy it. Great musicians, and we have a lot of fun with that. Also, my wife, who is a music therapist and a musician, she plays guitar and writes a lot of folk themed music, and she's working on a children's book.
Right. You mentioned that in the last interview. I just remembered.
Yeah, Emily. Yeah, so we're finished with the recording, so now we're working on the illustration and trying to get the words. So we're hoping that by the end of 24, early 25, we'll have that finished. But we would like to go through, go to a lot of the local libraries and play for the kids and do that type of thing. So we're got my hands in a lot of fires right now. So that's all
That's
I can handle, especially having a 3-year-old too. So
yeah, that'll do it. So the new EP is called Four on the Floor.
right.
Where did you get that name from?
It deals with 4 songs that are over 110 BPMs. So four on the floor is kind of a dance phrase. Is that so? Most of the music, actually, no, all of the music on the EP is over 110 beats per minute. So I kind of had that four, and also Duran Duran before they put out the wedding album, four on the floor was going to be the working title, and then they changed it. So I kind of had that lying around for the last 30 years. So
Having
yes.
grown up just outside Detroit, Four on the Floor has a different meaning to me. But
Oh, is it more groove or
oh, it's a
oh,
car.
what is it? Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, that's right. Motor City. Yeah, should have made that
Uh,
connection.
you know what you mentioned Duran Duran. What exactly is or was your relationship with John Taylor?
What happened was I had my own band back in the Boston days. I went to school in Newport, Rhode Island, and when I graduated, I moved to Boston with uh, with my band, and we're trying to get a record deal. And we met John when he had left Duran back in '98 ish, and he had a solo gig on Lansdowne Street at a club called Mamakin, which was owned by the Aerosmith guys, which is no longer there. And we bumped into him. What was it, before the show? I had bumped into him, and it was a quick conversation because he had a lot of people coming at him. But I was able to slip him a card, and then the day after, my roommate, who was my bandmate, was at work, and John came into where he worked and also gave him our card. So we had this connection going on with his assistant Patty, and we had this record that was coming out at the time, and we asked him if he'd be interested in hearing it. He was totally into it, loved the record, and we were able to get a spec deal with him where Trust the Process used to be his old website. He would sell our music, and we would divide the income 50-50. We split the royalties. So here we are, Duran heads, and John Taylor is promoting us and opening us up to all these Duranis. So as a result of that, we played at all these conventions in Pittsburgh, New York, Philly, and it was amazing. Just the amount of, it was all women, which I was like, all right, this is great. So it's like going to a Duran Duran show back in 1984. So that's how that came about.
I interviewed him in Hollywood one time at Bass Player Live, in fact, and
Okay. Wasn't he honored?
I don't think that
Oh no, okay, because I thought he was honored for something.
he might have been, but it could have been another year. I started going, I think in 2011, and I went every year until there was no more.
Oh, okay.
So
So you
yeah,
had met him at this event.
yeah, yeah. Bootsy Collins was honored one year, and James Jamerson was honored. So his son James Jr. was
Junior.
there, and who else? Chris Squire.
Oh gosh.
Robert Trujillo came out one year with 3 of Jocko's kids. So that was really, yeah, talking about the story about the base of doom.
Doesn't he own it now?
I
Or
I
give
don't
it back
know
to
if
the
he
family?
actually owns it, but he had a lot to do with retrieving it, and
Yeah.
I don't know if he. It's kind of touchy for some people, but just having Jocko's kids there with him, I think says a lot, which I'm sure was why he did that.
Yeah.
So, they look on him in a very favorable light.
Fondness, right.
Get into what happened or what didn't happen, but yeah. So I
Yeah.
was trying to think of who was honored every year. Oh, and Abe Laboriel one year, and Flea, and yeah, those were a lot of fun at SIR Studios on the Hollywood.
Gosh. I wonder why they stopped.
They were acquired by a British company called Future, and they run Bass Guitar Magazine, and they have a bunch of instruments, drums and acoustic guitar. And I used to go to the London Bass Guitar Show, and so now they're part of that fold. And I guess those kind of shows just don't make a lot of fiscal sense to do. Last time I went was 2019. That was cool. Patitucci was there, and I think Leland was. No, I don't remember who all was there. That's a lot has happened since then. So
yeah, oh yeah.
But hey, it's so great catching up with you, Joe. Thanks so much for reaching out. And Four on the Floor, here it is right here. I love it.
There it is.
Old school, yeah, I love it. I plugged in my
CDs. What are those?
I plugged in my peripheral CD player this morning. It hadn't been plugged in a while, but put it to good use. Thank you so much. Four on the Floor is the EP. Watch for the concert sometime in April in Connecticut with Corey and Joe. And the official name of the band, though, is Bearclaw and the Balance Brigade.
That's correct.
Okay, well, let us know, and we'll spread the word about that. But
absolutely, John.
Seriously, you are a very inspiring individual. You make me think. I have some ideas about a foundation I'd like to start, and some things I'd like to do, and that's just a whole big undertaking. And I've met with a lot of nonprofit people, and they just tend to be so giving and so helpful, and so I have some ideas. It's a bit much to get into here, but music has been very good to me, and a lot of people have helped me, and I'd like to pay it forward to some other people, and I have some ideas. So you're inspiring me to dust off some of those ideas. And,
thank you. Well, at the end of the day, it's about giving back.
That is a great note to end on.
John, thank you so much. Always a pleasure catching up with you.
Thank you, Joe. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
All right. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm Jon Liebman, founder and first baseman. A lot of people think they're too old or it's too late for them to learn how to play an instrument. So I created ForBassPlayersOnly.com for adults who want to learn to play bass, because I believe you're never too old and it's never too late to experience the joy and the pleasure of making music. ForBassPlayersOnly.com. This is the place to learn bass. I will see you all right here, same time, same place next week. In the meantime, let's play bass.